There it is, the elbow in playing, the elbow as a hinge point. There I demonstrated what Dom Famularo calls the power stroke. From the full free stroke position, you start with pushing the elbow out like this, and the stick will follow. From the other side, and then you allow that stick to come back to its starting position. That Dom calls the power stroke. It's not a stroke you're going to use often. In fact, you may never use it. But it's a good way to draw awareness to your elbow and how it can be used in a way that won't injure you to create more power and more speed in your sticks. That's number one elbow use. The number two elbow use would be in the molar technique, and I'll show it to you first there, but then I'm going to show you how it really, the elbow kind of creeps its way into most playing, to be honest with you. And once we start talking about molar and elbow and wrist lift, we're getting into informal style of playing, meaning the formal's from the wrist, informal is more of the molar, where you're pulling the stick out, lifting from the elbow, using the shoulder eventually. That's informal. So here's what the molar from the elbow looks like. In the German position, we take our stick, we push it forwards like this. As we're lifting it up like this, when our elbow gets to here, right here, the stick is just hanging there, pointed towards the floor. Our elbow is bent here. It's perpendicular to our body. That's the elbow placement right there for the molar whip, as they call it. Once you get to here, you whip that stick down. That is the elbow molar whip. You see that? That is how most people describe it. That is a technique that you're not going to use a lot. And I don't know that there's a way to practice that in an exercise, because it's not something you use. It's something that you kind of you use once to generate some momentum in the stick to get more playing with your fingers and your wrist. So don't try to do really fast exercises from the elbows. You're going to hurt yourself. What I do with that when I'm practicing is I just set a timer for a minute and I just play slow elbow lifts like that, hand to hand. That's all I do, just to keep that in my muscle memory so that I have it in my bag. Now, what I'm going to tell you next is this. In reality, when we lift to there, the shoulder is actually moving. So that motion that a lot of people call the elbow really is moving into the shoulder, although there's an extended shoulder version. So I call that an elbow, but really it's exaggerated, because truly the elbow in molar is here. You see that? My shoulder's not actually moving. My arm's not lifting away from my body, but my arm is bending right there at the elbow. Did you see it come up, my forearm? And that's where I think elbow hinge comes into play in the molar technique, right there. We lift up the forearm, leave the stick tip on the drum pad, and it creates this right here, creates this kind of a thing. And that happens with the elbow. You can't really do it without the elbow to get that high with it. And then you get your whip from there, from the elbow. If you're interested in learning molar, check out some of my videos on molar. There are a lot of molar videos online. Everybody will show you kind of the same thing. But that's the other use for the elbow. Now, I promise that at the end of the video I talk to you about how people use it. Well, people who play from the wrist, you'll see a lot of people who talk about playing from the wrist, but you'll see their arms moving. Look at my arms moving in here. So there is a little bit of motion in the elbow there. The elbow hinge is working. It's working with the wrist. Right now I'm playing 16th notes. I have a very loose grip on my sticks. I'm in the American position. My fingers are working. I feel my fingers helping the stick. My wrists are moving. and I have the elbow hinge point going. I have all three going at once right here. They all work together. You can play from just the wrist, or just the fingers, or just the wrist. But boy, when you get the elbow into it, and this isn't really molar, this is just using your lower arm as one complete unit to use the least amount of work to get the most done, to be the most musically expressive. So there it is, your elbow, you have the power stroke from here, and you have the molar, which truly is just lifting of your forearm for now, we'll think of it, to mobilize your wrist and your fingers. One more video, I'll talk about the shoulder a little bit, check it out.